We'll throw it back to you in your booth.
Hey, it's cool. We give a lot of love to the 12s who are braving the rain today. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll rejoin you as we get closer to kickoff. But Dave, for the third time in the last 4 years, the Seahawks have a brand new defensive coordinator, but a familiar face in Chris Richard, moving over from secondary coach to the D coordinator. What are your impressions of him? You could call it the most incredible, courageous, unfathomable win in Seahawks franchise history. The Hawks 28-22 overtime winners over the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Championship game, punching their ticket to Super Bowl 49 in Glendale, Arizona. This is Seahawks Game Day. My name is Speechless, alongside Incredulous and Dumbfounded, otherwise known as Aaron, Mac, and Dave. It was a three-putt Dustin Johnson will never forget, and one that gave way to the youngest U.S. Open champion since Bobby Jones in 1923, Jordan Spieth, going birdie, double bogey, birdie to win his second straight major, the youngest to win 2 majors since Gene Sarazen in 1922. This is your championship wrap presented by Krusty's. Aaron Levine alongside Husky men's golf coach Matt Thurman and Chambers Bay head pro Brent Zepp. Guys, the race for the Grand Slam is officially on. How about that finish today?
And when I say the name Hope Solo, everyone has an opinion. What do you say to your critics?
I would love my critics to actually speak to me. I think that'd be great.
You look around at CenturyLink Field. Everybody's wearing your jersey. If you went to the team pro shop, whose jersey would you buy?
Whose jersey would I buy? Man, that's a tough one. I'm an Earl Thomas type of guy. I love Marshawn. I love Richard Sherman. I love those guys. But Earl fires me up.
And best part is we know that all of them are playing in today's game. The home team are the Seahawks, and that's very appropriate considering all of the 12s who have completely taken over Arizona, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Tempe, Glendale today, the 12 Fest at Chase Field yesterday, just extraordinary. We're counting down to kickoff at Super Bowl 49. We'll be back with more coming up after this. There are going to be a lot of questions about that play at the goal line, and hopefully we're going to get some answers from the players as soon as Russell Wilson takes the podium, as soon as Pete Carroll takes the podium as well. And it's tough. I mean, we're going through the same thing that all the 12s out there right now are dealing with. A lot of disappointment, especially since we all felt that they were going to punch that thing in and win the Super Bowl. After a long 6.5-month wait, it's about time. The Seahawks back on the field where all the magic happened last season, including an incredible come-from-behind win in the NFC Championship game. This is the Seahawks pregame show brought to you by Sports Authority. A gloomy, rainy summer night at CenturyLink Field in Seattle, Washington, where the Hawks open the preseason against the Denver Broncos, the 13th all-time preseason meeting between the Hawks and their old AFC West rivals. Alongside former Seahawks linebacker Dave Wyman, I'm Aaron Levine. And Dave, so many great vibes in this stadium dating back to January. The Seahawks punching their ticket to a second straight Super Bowl. As we begin this journey anew, how important is this preseason? You have Jordan Spieth, who has a local caddy, and Michael Greller. You have Tony Finau, whose caddy, Greg Bodine, is from Kirkland, and he's very familiar with this course. And you also have a local caddy, Jason Gilson, here at Chambers Bay, who's caddying this week for an amateur Jack McGuire. And Brent, you said that McGuire was one of the very few rounds under par this afternoon. This was the last we saw of Clint Dempsey in a Sounders uniform on the receiving end of a red card that would ultimately result in a 3-game suspension in Major League Soccer and a minimum 2-year ban from the U.S. Open Cup. Fortunately, tonight's Portland match was the end of his MLS suspension. Rivalry mode in full throttle in the Rose City tonight. No score in the 12th minute. It's Darlington Nagbe putting the Timbers on the board. But despite Portland's dominance in the first half, the Sounders made it a match. 38th minute, Tyrone Mears sending it in. Lamar Nagel times it perfectly. That's the equalizer. The local product ties it at 1. The Seattle contingent, small but mighty out there today. Second half, a less than memorable 20 minutes. Fernando Adi puts the Timbers on top, and then just 2 minutes later, the smoke hadn't even cleared when Adi does it again. Just be careful with the chainsaw. I mean, it's a chainsaw, for God's sake. In extra time, it's Rodney Wallace putting the bow on top. The Sounders have lost 4 straight matches, 3 straight in MLS play. Clint, we need you back. Seattle falls 4-1. Back here live at Arrowhead Stadium, the Seahawks trailing the Chiefs 14-13 at the 2-minute warning. Aaron Levine alongside Dave Wyman. And Dave, preseason or not, this is giving the coaching staff and the team a great opportunity to practice late game situations with the game on the line. It all started a few years ago when Doug Baldwin said it's not a chip on my shoulder, it's a boulder on my shoulder. The fact that that guy now, I mean, you have had an excellent last few weeks, and now Doug Baldwin, 10 touchdowns in the last 4 games. What can you say about his success over the past month? How about the defensive line? We talk about the depth when it comes to defensive tackles and defensive ends. We have the ends, the tackles you can see right in the middle of us right here. It's great to see number 92, Brandon Mebane right there. Huge loss for this team when he went on IR after suffering that injury in the New York Giants game last year. Marshawn Lynch likely avoided a $500,000 fine from the NFL. Remember, a year ago, he coined that famous phrase, "I'm just all about that action, boss." Earlier today, he gave us another memorable line. At Super Bowl Media Day, Marshawn Lynch made it clear.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
A 5-minute appearance with Beast Mode's answers as consistent as his strong play on the field.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
If I didn't want to talk to you guys, I'd be saying the same thing.
He has his opinions about how he feels about the media and kind of the show that goes on, and we support him.
I'm here so I won't get fined.
Then again, Lynch's podium might have been better served for someone else, say the reigning Super Bowl MVP, once again relegated to the arena floor.
It worked for me last year. Maybe it'll work for me again. Yeah.
Man, we got to get that man a podium. He was the Super Bowl MVP and doesn't have a podium.
But at least one was reserved for Jermaine Kearse, who, like Doug Baldwin, has often thrived off of disrespect.
It makes me happy, man. He deserves it. That's a big-time player over there. You know, he's been doing it since he's been here, and so thankful that he's getting his opportunity to shine a little bit.
Still, the biggest crowd surrounded Richard Sherman, who put Brandon Browner's targeting comments into perspective 2 hours after Browner did the same.
There's definitely an understanding. He's funny, man. BB doesn't always put things exactly how he means to put them, but you know, knowing him and knowing who he is as a person, we understood what he means. He's just a competitor. He wants to win, and we can respect that.
You know, I'm not going to change, you know, what I said about it. My intent was good. You know, Sherman's one of my best friends in life.
My head is still spinning after a week of blunders, accusations, and bizarre stories, locally and nationally, which makes me even more thankful for coaches and leaders who set a good example. To recap, the head coach of a local softball team instructed his 11 and 12-year-old girls to intentionally lose a game at the Little League World Series. It's an absolute travesty to the integrity of sports and the spirit of the game. I mean, imagine if Pete Carroll's always compete mantra was altered to always compete, except when you're trying to indirectly eliminate another team from contention by tanking a game on purpose. And that's just the start. Baylor football coach Art Briles is continuing to feign ignorance over the checkered past of one of his players who was convicted of sexual assault. That's even after Huskies football coach Chris Peterson confirms that he thoroughly apprised Briles of that player's disciplinary record when he played for Peterson at Boise State, including violent incidents with a former girlfriend that led to his dismissal from the team. And that's nothing compared to a damning video that surfaced today showing Hall of Fame receiver Chris Carter giving this awful advice to NFL players at a rookie symposium last year.
If y'all got a crew, you got to have a fall guy in the crew. Now, I let my homeboys know, y'all want to keep rolling like this? Then I need to know who's going to be the fall guy, who's going to be driving, because y'all not going to all do the right stuff now, all right? So I got to teach y'all how to get around all this stuff, too.
Yes, he really just said that. Rather than stressing a zero-tolerance policy, he really told players to have a contingency plan, a fall guy for when they get in trouble. And don't even get me started on the Bellevue football program, under suspicion for years of bringing out-of-district talent to their team. I recommend reading the in-depth report in today's Seattle Times documenting at least one former player's account of using an illegal address and getting his schooling paid for by anonymous sources. It comes after their head coach was suspended for a couple games back in June, in part for providing money to a different player's family. Which brings us back to Sarkisian, the former Husky coach, who today apologized for his behavior and language at a school-sponsored booster event at USC last night. From multiple accounts, Sark appeared drunk, and he had to be pulled off the stage by athletic director Pat Hayden during a profanity-filled speech in which he was allegedly slurring his words. So to recap, in 1 week, we have an allegedly drunk coach, another one feigning ignorance for a player's violent past, another one telling 11-year-olds to lose a game on purpose, a Hall of Fame spokesman telling players to have a fall guy, and a local football program in hot water for going too far. I guess the moral is, let's hear it for the coaches and role models doing things the right way, the ones whose ultra-competitiveness isn't tainted by gray areas and ambiguity. They're clearly hard to find, so let's thank all of them while we have that chance. There's an aura around these parts. An aura that embraces visionaries, honors imagination, rewards dreamers. After all, long before this, and even before this, Chambers Bay was only this. And at nearby Narrows View Intermediate School in University Place, Michael Greller was this.
I mean, it wasn't even 3 years ago. I was in the classroom.
They called him Mr. Greller, full-time 6th grade math teacher.
He was a real fun guy to be around here.
Part-time caddy at Chambers Bay.
His customer service and his rapport with people was just great.
You see, Greller was a dreamer too. One who sat in the first ever caddy meeting at Chambers with a far-fetched goal.
That's where my dream started, to caddy at the U.S. Open at Chambers Bay.
And why not? He was a long shot on the biggest underdog of courses, the unprecedented choice of the USGA to host the first ever Open in the Pacific Northwest.
One of the epic performances in the annals of the sport.
Now, more than 7 years later, Greller returns to Chambers Bay as the full-time caddy for Masters champion Jordan Spieth, not to mention a veteran caddy in his 10th golf major.
It'll probably get a little emotional, that first tee shot on Thursday, knowing I went from sitting in that caddy meeting just hoping to caddy in it to bringing the Masters champion here. That's pretty cool.
He was a 6th grade math teacher.
How it came to be is a journey that parallels the improbable history of the old sand and gravel mine turned golf course itself. A partnership that might never have happened had Greller not been at Gold Mountain in Bremerton as a spectator following a golfer named Matt Savage.
He was carrying his own bag, and that struck me as odd.
So Greller offered to caddy for Savage for free.
I get the job the next day. He shoots 70, makes the cut.
Impressed with Greller's service, Savage referred him to Justin Thomas for the 2010 U.S. Amateur at Chambers Bay. The very next year, just weeks before the U.S. Junior Amateur at Gold Mountain, Greller got a voicemail from a 17-year-old Spieth saying,
Justin told me about you. Do you want to be my caddy? I'd just gotten back from a run across the Tacoma Narrows Bridge right behind us, and I listened to that voicemail quite a few times because I was pumped to work for a favorite.
Spieth was a favorite, who won, and then asked Greller to caddy for him as an amateur in the 2012 U.S. Open.
And so there I am, standing right next to Phil and Tiger, and we played with Angel Cabrera both days on the weekend, who here I am. It was my second to last week at school that year, and I had written a bunch of sub-plans, and the school district was great and granted me the time off.
But it wasn't until 6 months later that Mr. Greller, the 6th grade math teacher from University Place, got the call that would truly change his life.
Jordan's dad calls me, says Jordan's going to turn pro. Would you like to be his caddy?
Greller said yes, taking that leap of faith, along with a 1-year leave of absence from teaching.
It was tough telling my kids, those students that I'd already bonded with, that, I'm leaving to go be a caddy. I mean, they said they didn't know what a caddy was.
He exchanged 30 students for one. And so I think he has the same attitude with Jordan that he had with many of his students.
It's been a 2.5-year full-time partnership that struck all the right notes.
I think I'm kind of that neutral, calming voice. When he gets fired up, he can just bounce things off of me, and I'm going to listen. His competitive instincts and mine, I think, gel. He lets me have it. I let him have it. Talks about the Greller belly, my bald spot. I obviously pick on him for his receding hairline, so it's a very natural, easy chemistry.
That is a tremendous partnership.
Most of all, it's forged a genuine friendship. When Greller was married at Chambers Bay 2 years ago, Spieth was there. When Greller's niece suffered a seizure, Spieth wrote her name on his golf ball as a tribute to her health.
It's not just me that gets to be around Jordan every day. It's my family and friends that get to share this journey with them also.
And that's what makes this homecoming most special.
I think we have a lot of guys in the caddy operations that are rooting for Jordan. I think we have a lot of people at Chambers Bay that are rooting for Jordan because of Michael.
And why not? Even a former math teacher couldn't calculate the odds of a public course luring a national championship so soon. The odds of that same teacher returning to the course he once caddied on, the course he got married on, as the full-time caddy for the reigning Masters champ, because those odds would be inconceivable at best.
It's going to be kind of a collision of so many important things in my life. I've got unbelievable vibes around here and this place and this community. So yeah, it'll be special.